here, and we have a couple different options. There's a login page, and there's also create an account page. So suppose I want to create an account. Let's see, I was going to put in some stuff here. Okay, so there's already an account for this username, so if I try and do this, it gives me an error message. It says the username is already taken. Or suppose I don't fill out all the fields, it gives me another error message that tells me to fill out all the fields. So suppose I'll just change this to aDooms2, and I'll keep the password aDooms. So if I do this, it creates an account for me and stores all that information in a text file here, and it gives me a welcome message. Now suppose, okay, I want to sign out, so I can go log into, I could log into that one. Alright, or I have some other accounts. There's this one. Alright, so you see in the text file that has all the information here for user DeepRilo, the password is data structures F18. So if we try and put in the wrong password, it gives us an error message, but if we do this, it logs us in. Okay, so now from here we can go, let's say 53233. So we're going to search for restaurants by zip code. So here's all the restaurants that are in the zip code 53233, and over here we can filter. So let's say we want I don't know, fast food, 2 or 3 stars, cost of 2, and maybe gluten-free. See if we get anything. Okay, so there's nothing, so we'll take away the gluten-free one. Also nothing. Let's try diner. Okay, so here we have 2 that fit those search criteria, and suppose if I do this, yeah, so if I include only a cheaper cost, then I get some more options. So let's say we want to read reviews for Miss Katie. So you click on it and then you hit the read write reviews. And so here are some of the reviews that are written, the rating, the price, the username, and then the first, I think, 70 characters of the review are displayed, and they're in order from most recent to older. So if I want to write a review, I can go to this and let's say I put in my name, and we'll say this. Okay, so actually, let's not do that. So if I try and submit a review, if I didn't fill out all the stuff, it gives me an error message. So here it says please select one. Now if I select more than one, the same error message is there because I can only pick one. Okay, so now I have one picked, and actually Miss Katie's is like 1 star. So I have one, so that's good to go. So I need to enter a review, and let's put OK. So I hit submit, and then you can see that my review appears at the top as the most recent. Now we can go back and we can pick a different. So back after a little technical difficulty, so I switched the zip code to 5441, fast food, and yeah, update. So here are our options. So let's say Jimmy John's. Here's our reviews for Jimmy John's, and I'm not a fan of Jimmy John's, so we'll give him this, and we'll say I don't need to even put a username in. So comments trash. Alright, so I have it set so that if you submit a review without putting a name in, it just prints anonymous here in quotes. So here it shows I gave 1 star, it's cheap, and anonymous, and the review is trash. So yeah, that's takes back to the login. So that's pretty much it. And so all our data actually is stored. So there's 3 text files. There's a user data file, which has, you can see, I kind of made it so it's organized so you could actually read it. But yeah, it writes here, every time that you create a new account, it writes your data onto this file, and when you try and log in or you try and create an account, it compares to the existing files or users. So here's the review data. So it has like the restaurant, the reviews for, who wrote it, the rating, the price, and then the content of the review. So we have a whole bunch of those, and also the restaurant data. So here we have name, zip code, etc. So anyhow, it actively, so this is the price, so it'll update this every time that a review is written, and as well as the rating based on the user input and the number of reviews. So it can use that to actively update the price and rating for when you want to try and filter. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Go.
Okay, so yeah, we're team We Hate Jimmy John's, as you probably figured out from the first part of the video. So the goal of our application was to create a central place for customers to write reviews about restaurants that they dine in, and throughout the project we were able to complete a lot of the functionality that we originally wanted to. So our first page we're going to talk about is the create account page. So this is one of the first ones that we designed that involved reading and writing to the text files that actually held like a kind of databases. So yeah, that was the tricky part here. So figuring out or learning how to take input from the text box or the boxes here, and then print error messages if you didn't fill in all the fields, or if the username matched an existing one. And so then from there we had to figure out how to write the data that we input here to the file, and that was probably the main challenge of this page, because once that sort of general approach was figured out, it wasn't too bad for implementing in the different pages. Yeah, so then we also have the login page, which is, I guess, kind of almost a simpler version of it's very similar to the create account page as far as how it actually had to be implemented. So with this, basically we had to do was read from the text file with all the user data, and then try and find where that user's block was, and then compare their password to the password that's in the file. And that was probably the hardest part about doing this. And then not only that, so then once you're logged in and then you switch between pages, like the pages needed to know who the user was. So we basically had to create like a user field for each class, for each page, and then it's initially set to null, but then as you switch pages, the previous page that you're logged in on transfers. It basically sets the user field in the next page equal to whoever that user was. So there's like initializes that object with all of your information, so then when you go to the next page, it knows what name to display and that kind of stuff. Okay, so this was probably one of the hardest parts, was trying to implement the filtering of the restaurants, and that code took a long time. Just trying to basically take all these inputs and then trying to translate that into something that could be used as like an algorithm to search through the text file with all the restaurants, and then basically actively build an array list with the restaurant objects that you generate from the text file. So, and then having to display that there was pretty easy, but that was the main challenge, was actually trying to figure out how to make it so that it could filter. Okay, then read reviews. Yeah, being able to display the most recent. So basically what this does is there's a reviews text file, and it reads through and it generates reviews objects for each. And then the hard part for this was trying to translate the data in the file to this string that's printed here. So basically in the reviews file, like for the rating, it'll be stored as an integer, which it's basically in the form of like a string. So it'll be like the number 3, and then having to make it translate that from 3 to printing printing 3 stars, and there were like 3 for the price. So that was kind of tricky, and then also just, you know, trying to build this string as we went through. And then also it has it so like if the, I think it's 15 characters. If the username is longer than 15 characters, it'll cut it off and then print some ellipses. And the same thing, it's like 70 characters, I think, or 100 characters for the limit for the actual content of the review, and having to cut that off and then display that. And then also trying to display the most recent reviews on top. And I guess that was not terribly hard, because in the text file it's basically written like the older reviews are at the top, so when it reads it and it builds an array list, it starts with the oldest ones. So all you had to do is call a method to basically flip the order of the array list, and that did that for us. Okay, so for writing reviews, this one kind of had some of the difficulty of the create account page, where it had to error check to make sure that your inputs were right, so you couldn't like select 2 costs or 2 ratings, and you had to have content here. So that was kind of applying the same thing. It's a little bit trickier though, because you couldn't just check to see if a field had text in it, because, you know, okay, yeah, these might be clicked, but then if you click more than one, you also have to look for that. And then the other thing we implemented was you don't necessarily have to input a name. So then what happens is when it writes the review data to the file, if you didn't put a name in, it'll just be a blank space. So then when you go back to the reviews page to print the reviews, and then this thing, the code will look and it says, okay, if there's a blank space where the username should be, it'll print the string anonymous in quotes. Like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.